Well, hello, traders and investors. I'm LA Little, and this is your daily NeoTA wrap. We take a look at these markets, doing it from a neoclassical perspective, each time asking ourselves what happened today and what does it tell us about the coming ones. We do this show 4 times a week, every Monday through Thursday. It's broadcast at or before 10 o'clock Eastern Time. It's archived on YouTube, and it's under the channel LA Little. If you want to subscribe, just reach up in the right-hand corner and do so. It's free and easy, allows you to stay up with what's going on. And what's going on is another breakout, folks. It's hard to respect the market that's as stretched, has been as bullish as it has been for as long as it has been, but it just keeps doing it, right? Up another percent here on the S&P 500, 2% on the Russell. The Russell was the one carrying the weight today, never gave it up, right? And the deal there was the banks. You had J.P. Morgan this morning, got the financial stocks going. But you had stocks or the ETFs like KRE and KBE, up 3% today. And that was the juice here. A lot of that is tied to oil prices being higher, but a lot of that is just tied to the fact that the financials have been sold down so much. And the expectation is that the worst is in, right? How many times have we said that the worst is in, right? But anyway, it's up and it's up and it breaks out. And if it breaks out, folks, it can keep going. And so we'll look at the charts here in a few minutes. And you had risk on around the world. The dollar comes off, the Nikkei goes up. Where's the dollar here? Dollar was, wow, that doesn't look right, 0.78 higher. We'll check that together. That doesn't look right. But anyway, the Nikkei was up. You had the bonds up a little bit. You had the DAX up strong. You had the CAX up strong. And gold was taking it on the chin as a result of that. So I'm sorry, I've got it backwards, right? The dollar was up today. It's been down. I'm going brain dead here tonight. 0.78% higher. So the dollar bounces up, right, which makes the commodities less favorable, and gold took it on chin as a result of that. So let's pop over, take a look at the charts, see what they look like, and see these breakouts here that took place today. So decent volume last 2 days, right? You come down, you'd set up that range that we showed last night, right? And that range was basically off of this bar. Couldn't get underneath that bar, and that was what we were keying off of, is are you going to be able to get under it or not? Well, didn't get under it, tried over and over and over, and finally breaks out on the top side tonight. Volume again is decent. You're over a swing point high. You're potentially now setting up a breakout on multiple time frames, which would be amazing at this point. But here's the weekly, right? Swing point high here is at 2081.56, and as of tonight, you're over at 2082.42. So potential setup of multiple swing points breaking on the upside. You did have a consolidation. When you look at it on the weekly, right, that's really not much of any of a consolidation. But on the daily, it is, and you're pressing against highs one more time. NASDAQ, same story, right? Gets over the highs, breaks out, and pushing decent volume. Same thing. Tried to get back. Remember, yesterday we looked at this bar. It almost got into it, rejected it, flipped it around. They get the follow through to the top side today. It's over the breakdown bar, at least the gap down part of it, and trying to push higher. If we look at the NDX, right, the more concentrated version, that also breaks out. It's over the top. And again, if you look at it on the weekly, that's coming into the very top of the breakdown bars gap area. And finally, if we go to the Russell was the one that was leading all day. Russell breaks out, gets over the swing point high. And if we go to the weekly on it, the breakdown bar here, that's what it's going after, 1056.92. So you've got three indexes going after the tops of the breakdown bars. You got the S&P 500 now over the swing point high on the weekly and breaking out on the daily and potentially setting up multiple swing point breakouts, multiple time frames. And what was the juice today? Well, the juice, of course, to some extent was J.P. Morgan this morning. That was the financials. Folks have, been looking at earnings and saying they're going to be horrible, horrible. Well, they always mark them down so you can beat. And even though J.P. Morgan's results were horrible, they were quote unquote better than expected, and they got the juice going. The other big story, of course, was the dollar. The dollar finally gets the bounce. The dollar's been down here struggling on a weekly time frame to hit this low. I think I misspoke last night when I talked about Draghi and the ECB. That's next week, not this week. But if we go look here on the monthly chart, right, comes down to the bottom end of this and looks like it's going to try to hold on the monthly time frame, or at least hold that range. If we go over and look at the euro of course drops. That puts the juice back into the markets overseas, Europe in particular. And the other piece it does here, for those of you who believe in retest, regens, gets under it, right? So that says, hey, this trend that's been in effect, right, this push up now is probably more like that instead of up. So when you get under it like that, that says, hey, that trend probably is going to take a rest. And so that breakout couldn't hold, couldn't extend, and so now we're coming back into the range. And I'm not overly surprised about that. I had written an article not that long ago what the dollar and euro yen have in store for the stock market. My expectation is that if that dollar does start to run higher, that is going to hurt the markets more than it helps them. But at this point in time, it's going to help them, and you can see that both in the FXE and in the FXY coming back in some. Of course, the bad thing, as I said last night, that bounce is going to hurt the metals. That did start to hurt the gold market today. I did see silver holding up today, and let's see if it closed up, and it did. And you got the breakout yesterday, you got the follow through today, but I don't think that's going to last unless the currencies flip back around. On the oil market pushed up, got over the high, and actually stayed over it on the WTI, I believe, but here on the USO did not. Let's go to the overseas markets real quick. The summary here is that what you have is breakouts, right, on the domestic markets. But when you look overseas, you really don't have breakouts in a number of these cases. I'm going to start here with the DAX. So the DAX is just trying to push back towards the highs. That big volume quad witching bar gets over it. The Draghi bar gets over it as well. So it's going to push up and try to test the highs probably as soon as tomorrow. If we look at the CAC also pushing up pretty strong today. Both of these markets up 2.5%, 3%, and it's going to try to push up to the top of the Draghi bar. And finally, if we look at Switzerland got a nice big pop today as well. And as you saw, a little bit of volume comes into all these. Swing point high here, it's going to try to get over it. If you look at the Swiss market on the weekly, you still have that retest regen zone up above, and it hasn't even gotten there yet. So this could get a good bounce and still just be in a downtrend. If we look at the Asian markets, I'll start here with Taipei, a nice little bounce back up, but as you can see, they're not at the highs at this point. Shanghai actually got over it. I don't have the volumes in yet, but it did get over it and did stay over it, even though it kind of gave some back at the end of the night. The one that was strongest was Hong Kong. I believe Hong Kong was up about 3%. Big volume came in, 3.19%. Pull it back. It's finally doing the full retest regen, consolidated long enough now. It's going to try and do the test and see if it can get over it. And so we're talking about that area there, and I wouldn't be surprised if it tries to get into it by the end of the week as well. And so overseas markets look a lot different than ours. We're barely off the all-time highs. These markets are still down 10, 15, 20%, depending on which one you're looking at. And I did mention the Nikkei getting a nice bounce too. Another 3% almost today on the bounce. And if you look at it on the weekly, right, got deep into this bar. Again, I suspect what these are going to be is just bounces before we get some sort of pressure back to the downside. So the story is how it has been, and that is that the strength here is the U.S., right? The U.S. markets are the ones that are showing the most strength. You can see it in the sectors. You can see it in the indexes. And now the key is now that you've gotten over the range, what you want to see is a follow-through day, right? You need something that tells you this is going to stick. And so this little range that just gave up, what you want to see is you want to see it pull away tomorrow and press on higher. If it does that, then you can get another leg up. What's the leg up? Well, you just have to do projections. It's probably easiest to do it off of this structure. And what you're going to see, and I'll just use the ABCDs here, what you're going to see is the low is the A on this one. The B point is going to be right there, right? Your C point is right here, and your D point is right there. So it's not much of an ABCD structure, and that's why I'm saying if this thing's really going to do something more, it needs to start legging away as early as tomorrow. And if it doesn't, then I think that all we did was expand the range. Let's see what it does tomorrow. We got some more earnings, some key earnings in the financials. If they can continue to push the financials, and I'll pull up the XLF to show you, that's the key right here. And so I think the financials are the thing to watch. You get over a swing point high, 2284, 2295 is the next one. So that's, this has to push. If it doesn't push, the market's just going to fall right back into that range. That's it for tonight. I don't have a strong opinion about which one, but folks, you got to go with the trend. The trend's up, so you got to, if you're going to err on the side of the trend. That's it for tonight. Have a great one. Take care. Good night.